The reason why lots of you are never going to hit the ball as far as you should is because of this. So many of my students struggle from it. I know loads of you watching struggle from this idea, and I want to help you. Let's stop you losing distance and get you gaining distance with some easy techniques. So that drive, I hit the ball 7 down. So my club was passing down as I hit that ball. Now, to maximize your distance, we need to try and get your launch up and in theory your spin down, and that's relative to how fast you swing. But the general rule for many golfers is by hitting the ball on the way down like they do, it tends to drag the launch down, it tends to add spin as well, and it results in up to 20 yards of lost distance. So these 3 ideas I'm going to share with you are based on facts of measuring with high power systems, as well as years of experience of helping people try to maximize their launch and their spin. Now, we're not talking new equipment, we're talking getting your equipment to work for you. So the first reason you're going to lose distance is because of the way many of you are holding the club. We need to get it out of this part of your palm and make sure we're moving it down into this part of your palm in your lead hand. So through the first finger, the base of your palm wrapping round, not up through the middle of your hand like many of you have got it. This up through the middle of the palm hold encourages you to have a face which is open to a path, so pointing right. And having a face open to a path at delivery requires you to swing further to the left to try and balance these ideas up. Often when people swing to the left, certainly everyday golfers, what happens, face open to a path, so they move their pathway left, and then they start hitting down with the face open to that path. And this shot is a common shot. We just see it day in, day out with golfers. That's an exaggeration, but a low starting left, curving back to target or over curving away from target. Now, there are some exceptions to the rule with this hold, but for so many of you watching, please, let's get it through the base of your palm. Easiest way to do that is to not address the club when it's in this position, because if I put my hand down by it, it just sits through the wrong part of my palm. So what happens is you have to really start angling your hand into a way that people often find uncomfortable. So it's really simple. Club out in front of you, pointing up at the sky. I've just got it with my trail hand. I'm going to hold my gloved hand, my lead hand, out towards the club, and it naturally lines up with the base of my palm, and from there I can take my hold in a much stronger position. So doing it out here and then applying it down to the ball for lots of golfers sets the club in a place that feels uncomfortable at the start. People will say, oh, that feels really twisted. They will feel very different and very twisted. But what it does is it allows for much stronger wrist angles, much stronger use of the face, and that's going to be the first port of call to trying to get you to launch this ball and take that spin off to maximize your distance. Number 2 is connected very heavily to number 1, and what you're going to find as this video goes on is I'm just removing all the rewards for hitting down at the ball. All these things people do gives them rewards if they hit down at the ball, meaning it's the only way to do it. So lots of people go around this the wrong way. They try and hit up and out of it with these faults that I'm talking about, and they hit worse shots, and they think, well, that doesn't work. Yeah, because the rewards for hitting down and left, out to win, down and left, haven't been taken away. We need to get you swinging in a way that rewards you hitting up and out to maximize. So let's get rid of ball position way forward and then reaching forward for the club and the ball, encouraging down and leftward blows. Now, it's counterintuitive to think that the ball forwards encourages a more downward hit, but for most people it does, because the problem is if you have the ball way forward and I make my low point, so where my club gets to its lowest point back here by nearer my trail foot, well, I'm just going to top that ball on the way up by the time it reaches that ball way forward. So if you think about a good ball position with a driver as ranging anywhere from the knuckle of your big toe to 2 inches inside your lead heel, and you can play it from anywhere in there, I would be moving it to just inside your lead heel for you ideally. Now what happens from here, if I get to my low point, club down back towards my trail foot, when the club passes low point it starts coming up and I connect with the ball and make a strike. Ball position way forward, even though we think that makes us hit up more, for lots of people it encourages this reach with their shoulders where they start pointing this way, reach with trail hand where they start going on top of it, and then we start seeing down and left swings. There you go, there's the functional one, but it's losing so much distance. And it's also encouraging this last movement where I'm leaning forward which we need to be. It's a simple way to align your ball position to your new strategy is I'm just going to use this simple visual here of this swimming device, woggle or noodle or whatever you call it in your country. And you can see here I'm hitting down, inside, get to my 0 point here, and now I start trying to come up. So I'm going to position my ball position just an inch inside of that lead heel. And the way I'm going to do that, feet together, just move my lead foot a little bit, take my width of stance with my trail foot to try and set that in the right place every time. And then in turn, I'm going to introduce my trail hand, my right hand last, just to try and get my shoulders to actually start tilting this way, rather than if I start moving that ball position way forwards. So in effect, now I'm hitting, my straight line has now moved, and I'm reaching for this. This is where I'm going to be hitting much more out and down at that ball to try and get it. So we need to be making sure that this shoulder just drops back, take our width of stance more with trail foot than lead, and then just trail hand last for me, right hand. Just sets me with a little bit of tilt to allow me to now start trying to get up and out at that ball. And this is where the tilts really start playing their point and their purpose to help you launch, which is why this move is the one that kills most of you. So the way you take this club back is going to have heavily influences on what you do on the way down. And the common pattern we see with people who are hitting down, losing distance, swinging left, adding curvature, losing distance. Believe it or not, it's not people picking the club up out here. It's actually people really rolling the club to try and get from the inside on the backswing into these really flat and rounded, their body curved, broken down takeaways and curved backswings, which then encourage these kind of actions and throw over. And then as they come down and hit the ball, their shoulders turn relatively flat, such a common position with amateurs, and leaning forwards. We need you hitting the ball basically with trail shoulder lower than lead with rotation. One of the standout differences, and I've done full videos on this, is that as pro golfers come through, the angle of their shoulders is way more tilted down than amateurs who generally tend to be up and leaning forward. And again, that is just rewarding the down and left hit. We need to reward the up and out, so we need to get you going this way with rotation. And the way we're going to do that is getting rid of this mess on the way back. So for me to come through with shoulders tilting more down to the ground and then finishing where I'm leaning back to get this launch, the easiest way for me to do this is on a backswing, is to make sure my lead shoulder goes down. So in effect, I'm following a similar pattern backswing and downswing. What we see from golfers is this flat backswing, then this try and readjust as the club comes over, then they realize they can't hit the ball, so then they just turn their shoulders rather than tilt them on the way through, giving these horrible strikes. So let's get your takeaway working for you, and the way we're going to do that is I want you simply to get rid of these rolling actions. So what we're going to do is just gently pick the club a foot above the ball and then come back to first parallel where I feel like my hands get there before the club. So in effect, I'm just picking the club up and then starting to rotate. What lots of people are doing are letting this club kind of rotate behind them, keeping everything low, and then picking their arms up. So simple drill, just trying to hit first parallel, pick the club up a couple of feet, bring your hands back with your shoulders and rotate your hips. Get your hips and shoulders feel like they're tilting, turning, so you get back to this position. We don't want out here. And then from here, we want lead shoulder to knock the ball off the tee. Really feel like you chuck this down to chuck the club up, because it's going to be the same idea, but in reverse on the downswing. And this is what's going to absolutely transform that angle of attack, is I want you to hit the ball with your trail shoulder, chuck this at it. So without the ball to kick us off, I'm just going to pick the club up, get hips and shoulders tilting a little bit, first parallel, hit the tee with lead shoulder, and then hit the tee with trail shoulder. So I'm literally trying to chuck this down rather than over and around. And a good way of feeling this is on your follow through, make some smaller follow throughs where you feel like your trail shoulder is lower than your lead. So feel like you're out of this kind of temptation to go forwards and that you're still feeling like you're leaning over. But really what you're doing is you're actually tilting, and then you've rotated your whole body, which is going to give you this lovely extension in your upper body and get rid of this horrible chase, which is what's knocking it down. We need the momentum's going up, and that's going to come from you turning, tilting, and coming up through it. Yeah, up. We need you hitting the ball this way with tilt. and you're going to launch it. And this is the golden bit. You're going to launch it in a way where you don't have to swing faster, but it'll start going further. It'll start going higher, it'll carry more, it'll have less spin because the launch angle will start to correlate a little bit more with the angle of attack, bringing a thing called spin loft down. Brings your spin down, basically, maximizes energy. Losing distance by making these very cheap mistakes is something that would allow you to get ahead of other golfers with some simple ideas of just simply changing your attack. Now, you can build your stretch, push out a little bit more, try and make your backswing into a stronger position. And I do that with lots of students in some really simple ways with this video here, which is transforming golfers' distance. This idea with that, honestly, 15 yards, easily.